So taking benefits because you want to get something before Social Security goes broke, that's the worst reason to take a benefit at a
Agreed.
certain point. But as Mark mentioned, eventually, if nothing is done, everybody's going to receive a 20% pay cut. That's not going to happen.
Welcome back to Retirement FAQs. My name is Taylor Demars, and I am super excited to introduce two special guests today to talk about Social Security. I have Jim Blair and Marc Kiner from Premier Social Security Consulting today with some unique and very deep-rooted backgrounds. In fact, Jim has been a consultant for Social Security for many years. Over 35 years, he's been working with the Social Security Department, including being a district manager for the Piqua, Ohio Social Security Office. Marc had his own CPA practice for over 35 years and today has sold that practice just so he can solely focus on this very important topic. So I want to really appreciate Marc and Jim for coming on today. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here, Taylor. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about Social Security.
Of course.
Always.
Of course. It's one of those things that affects all retirees and they want to get right, of course. So before our call, we were talking about a few things that you find, as this is your bread and butter, what you talk about with clients every day, that you want to make sure that we highlight and perhaps do some myth busting. There's a lot of talk about Social Security, right? And a lot of pundits out there that pretend that they know what they're talking about. What are some of the primary misconceptions or stereotypes that people overlook about Social Security that you feel that every retiree needs to know?
Well, I'll start with that. I want to let folks, Taylor, know that we are located in the great city of Cincinnati, Ohio. I live in the suburb of Blue Ash. And Jim, where do you live?
I'm a little north in a little town called Ross, Ohio.
Yeah. And Jim and I, we've been together since 2010. And like you said, Taylor, we are only involved in the Social Security space. We provide Social Security consulting and education to folks all across the country. So the biggest misconception is that folks across the country believe that the Social Security Administration will provide the guidance and the options and claiming strategies for folks if they are asked. So a lot of people think they can go down to the Social Security Administration and say, "Hey, what are my options?" and and they expect Social Security to be able to answer that question and really go through their options.
Sure.
But Jim always tells me that is not correct, right, Jim?
Right. They've been told not to discuss the following options people have. And I'm kind of okay with that, and from the fact that Social Security is just one source of income in retirement, or at least hopefully it is for folks. And the people down there don't have access to people's other sources of income. They can tell them about Social Security. They can tell them they're eligible for retirement or a spousal benefit, but they're not going to be able to really give them advice on when to file.
Right.
Should I take my benefit at 62 or wait till 70? What should my spouse do? They're not in a place to do that. So Social Security is not going to help you. They will help you apply. They'll fill out the application for you once you're ready, but you have to figure that out on your own.
Right. Hence the name of your business, Premier Social Security Consulting, right? To help them make an educated, informed decision.
Yes.
And also, Taylor, lots of people believe that they get correct answers from the Social Security Administration. And that is not correct either. Jim and I, we hear horror stories all the time about incorrect advice and answers to questions that are posed by the public. It just blows our mind with all the inaccuracy out there. Do you agree, Jim?
Yeah, the folks at the Social Security office, I'll stand up for them a little bit and say,
Mhm.
as far as government employees go, I think they're the hardest working people out there. They do try to do a good job, but they've had a lot of issues, a lot of staffing issues. A lot of people have left. The experience has walked out the door. They don't have as many employees. Training is lacking. I hear that as complaints from the employees. So the information they're handing out in some cases is it's concerning and confusing as to why they would say what they do. So I always tell people make sure you don't just take what they say as gospel. You want to make sure that the benefits you're eligible for, you know what those are yourself, because you can't necessarily depend on what those folks would tell you.
Sure. And to me, if I were filing for benefits tomorrow, that would make me a little scared hearing that. So who do I trust? If I can't trust the source, do I call back 3 times and see if they all answer the same way, or what do you suggest? How do I make sure I'm getting the right information?
Some of the problem is you can ask a question, and if you ask it and if you don't ask it exactly the same way, the answer might be a little different from answer to answer. But um, just make sure that you do some research on your own. That's what we do. We help people figure out what their options are and what is available to them, so that if they go to Social Security and the representative down there says you can't do that, then we'll help try to point them in the right direction so they can get it done. Um, just always take what you're told with a grain of salt, and question it a little bit.
Sure. That's good feedback. And I also encourage clients, you know, when they're looking about financial planning or retirement topics, do your own research. Be an educated investor, an educated retiree. Uh, what resources would you direct them to? What platforms or tools are a good place for them to get educated?
The Social Security website is actually a very good
Okay.
website. Um, SSA.gov. The first thing that people want to do when they go to that website is look for what's called My Social Security. This is an account that they'll set up so that they can review their own record that Social Security has for them. Social Security used to mail out benefit statements to people, and if you're under 60, they don't mail them out anymore.
Yeah.
And I talk to people all the time over 60, and some receive their statements and some don't. So I always recommend you go to SSA.gov and create this online account. And there's a lot of advantages to doing that. Even younger folks, people 18 or older, should create this account. You can look at your benefit statement whenever you want. Social Security will remind you every year. About 3 months before your birthday, you get an email. Hey, it's time to look at your Social Security statement. Make sure what we're posting on there is correct.
Mm,
Your wages are correct. Your date of birth is correct. And it'll give you an idea what your benefits will be at certain points, 62 all the way up to age 70. If you're receiving benefits, it allows you to change your address, change your bank information, get a benefit verification letter. So, lots of good reasons to create this account.
sure.
Everybody should do that.
Okay.
But then, if you have questions, there's calculators where you can calculate your benefits. There's all sorts of blog type information on there, and information about every type of benefit that Social Security offers. Sometimes the easiest way to get to that is just to Google what it is you're looking for. And then usually the Google responses will give you access to the Social Security website. But you can go in there and search, and look for different items. There's a great benefit calculator on there where you can calculate your benefits and make different assumptions. So, what if I stop work at 55?
Mm,
What's that going to do to my benefit? What if I continue to work? How is that going to help increase my benefit? So, a lot of good things on the Social Security website. That'd be the first place I would go.
that's great feedback. Thank you, Jim. And for those watching and listening, I'll put a link to SSA.gov and those tools in the description to make it easy. That's great feedback. Um, Tell me what else? What other misconceptions or myths can
Well,
we bust when it comes to
sure.
Social Security?
Well, many times when people hear what neighbors have done relating to Social Security, they think that's what they should do. For example, maybe a neighbor might say, "Hey, my wife waiting to age 70 to collect hers, and I took mine at my full retirement age." Or another neighbor might say, "My wife took her benefits at maybe age 62, and I'm going to wait until later to take mine." situational Social Security says that for every married couple that Jim Blair meets with, they will all have a different set of Social Security strategies and claiming options that are available to them. You may have a husband that could be 5+ years difference in age from the wife. Maybe they're closer in age. Maybe the wife is older than the husband. Maybe she has more benefits coming to her than the husband does. Maybe somebody was a public employee in their past, or maybe somebody had has a deceased spouse in their past. So everyone will have a different set of situations available to them. So trying to do what a neighbor does or what somebody does at a cocktail party that you may go to and think that's good for you probably is not the best route to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you loud and clear. It's almost like showing up to someone else's medicine cabinet saying, "Oh, that looks good. I'm going to try that for me." And not taking into account, of course, medical history and all the other
And
factors. So I completely
I
agree.
never heard of that one, Taylor. I never heard of that one before. I'll have to use that. Use that option when I'm at
Well,
somebody else's house.
Yeah. Once you take a benefit, that is your benefit. You do have a year to change your mind. That saying that is the easy part, because the hard part is if you do change your mind and withdraw your application within that year, you've got to pay back all the money they paid you.
right. It's
And
true.
that can be either painful or impossible for a lot of folks. So you want to make sure that you look at your options before you apply, and keep in mind, and what we always tell people, we want them to maximize their benefit. Now, a lot of people might think, well, how do I get the most amount of money? I wait till age 70. Well, you have to maximize your benefit within your situation. So waiting till 70 may not be an option, but you're still going to try to maximize your benefit within your particular situation. What works best for you? Do you have a disabled or a minor child that would be eligible for benefits? If you delay your benefit, you delay their benefit. And so you may want to file a little earlier than you thought, just to make sure that not only are you receiving Social Security, but so are your folks that are eligible, your spouse or your any children that are eligible. So you have to factor all that in when we're maximizing your benefit.
Definitely.
For
And if I
example,
can
Taylor.
go
Oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say talking about situations and when you claim. I'm actually single, and I decided to take my benefits at my full retirement age, which was June of 2018. No, June of 2022, I should say, going on 2 years, because nobody's going to collect off me when I'm gone. And so I felt it was best for me to take my benefits at my full retirement age. I can use those benefits to pay bills, pay off loans, to invest, even pay estimated tax payments. So in my situation, it was better for me to claim at my full retirement age. Sure, I would have received more money on a per monthly basis if I had waited all the way up to age 70, because I would have gotten those delayed retirement credits.
Sure.
But we all know life is not guaranteed. And if I had waited to age 70, maybe something would have taken me out at 73 or 74. So in my situation, take my benefits at my full retirement age did make a lot of sense.
Exactly. And to your point, Mark, it maximizing your benefits isn't all about the dollar amount, right?
Right.
There are other factors such as genetics and life complexity, family complexities. Uh, just because it means you can, the break even point to maximize your benefits by waiting the longest is between, around your age 82, 83, doesn't mean it makes sense if your, longest living relatives, blood relatives live to their age 80, right? Or so on.
But that
So,
but that brings up another point too. If you're married, you want to look at a joint lifespan. So
right,
husband may pass away, be maybe before reaching age 75 or so, but then the wife will step into his shoes upon his death and receive the benefit for the rest of her life. So if he waited to age 70, that would benefit her more, even though maybe he did not receive a benefit for such a long time.
true.
Now, the question is, how many folks actually wait to age 70 to begin their benefits? Jim has that answer, right, Jim?
Yeah, this last statistic I saw was somewhere between 5 to 7%.
Is that
So a
right?
lot,
Wow.
not a lot of people wait till 70. It's generally your higher earners who are still working, and they're going to wait to take their benefit. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't people that wait between full retirement age and age 70. There are folks who may not file at their full retirement age, but they're going to file before they reach age 70. So you don't have, it's not one or the other. It's not
Right.
full retirement age or 70. Basically, once someone reaches age 62, then they've got that 8 year window to apply for benefits. They're going to, regardless of your full retirement age, you'll file for benefits between 62 and 70. Can't file for retirement before 62. And I haven't heard a good reason yet to wait past age 70 to take those benefits because you don't gain anything by it.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
if you like donating money to the federal government, and trust me, they need it. They spend money pretty well, so they'll take whatever you can, but you don't gain anything by waiting past age 70. Somewhere in that 8 year window, you need to begin your benefits.
Definitely. Definitely. And maybe if I can shift gears with your permission, another misconception that came to mind that I hear all the time from clients, especially recently, and you tell me if it's a misconception, is the strength or the longevity of the Social Security program.
Yeah.
People are concerned. I just had a client last week. He's, in his early 60s, considering filing sometime soon, but he's wondering, is it going to be there in a few years? I gave him my own opinion. I'm here to listen to yours. But for people who have already started their Social Security benefits, for people who are about to, or people who are maybe a few to several years off, how would you speak to those people as far as the integrity and the strength of the Social Security program?
Well, currently, the Social Security trust funds, that's a combination of two funds into one. It's the retirement and old age and disability. It's about $2.8 trillion in the combined trust funds. By 2000 and maybe 33, maybe 2034, always it changes from time to time. That trust fund would be down to zero because Social Security is paying out more in benefits than the taxes that are coming in.
Right.
And when the trust fund is down to zero, folks will see, and I'm estimating a little bit, about a 20% reduction in their benefits. So if nothing is done to make the Social Security system more solvent, then everyone, including me and Jim, because we're both receiving benefits, will see a 20% haircut in our Social Security benefits. So when uh, the presidential nominees say they are not going to cut Social Security benefits, that's really not true. If no legislation is passed, then Social Security benefits will be cut by about 20% for folks receiving benefits currently. Now, there are only two ways to make the Social Security system more solid. One is by decreasing benefits, and the other one is by increasing taxes. Jim and I both believe that something would be done down the road, probably a year or two before the trust fund is gone, to make the system more solvent than it is.
Uh, you know, People are still going to be working and paying in. So taking benefits because you want to get something before Social Security goes broke, that's the worst reason to take a benefit
I
at a
agree.
certain point. But as Mark mentioned, eventually, if nothing is done, everybody's going to receive a 20% pay cut. That's not going to happen. We had the same issue in the late 70s, early 80s, and some changes were made to the program then that affected anybody that's listening to this. One of the
Right.
big ones was they moved the full retirement age. Used to be age 65. Now, if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. They're probably going to end up raising it to 70. I know they kick that back and forth, and the politicians, they just make it rough on all of us because uh, just make the changes and get it done. The sooner, the better. But they're probably going to raise the full retirement age to 70. They're probably going to pay the amount of money that you pay Social Security tax on. I don't think it'll be the percentage, but this year you stop paying the Social Security tax if you earn over 168,600, and they're going to raise that.
Right.
Um, you pay the Medicare portion of the tax on all your earnings. They could do something like that, but probably more along the lines of maybe raising the cap to 250,000. Some talk about leaving it where it's at, and then it kicks in again if you earn over 400,000. But this is the part Mark was talking about. People are going to pay more in taxes,
Sure.
but it's going to be more the higher earners. They'll probably do a little means testing and how they compute the benefits. That again is only going to affect the higher earners. The lower earners, middle income earners, and even slightly higher earner folks, people in the upper middle class, they'll still see the same amount of benefit. It's your very wealthy folks, people earning 250,000 a year or more. Uh, they may see less money than what the current law calls for, but they're still going to receive something. So it will be there, and it'll be there in some form or another. They will make the changes, because are you going to vote for somebody that gives you a 20% pay cut? They all like to get reelected, and that won't happen if they cut your benefits by 20%. So the
Right.
changes are coming.
Right.
It's just, unfortunately for us, it's later rather than sooner.
I agree.
So Social Security is never going to go broke. Even though that trust fund will be gone in the early 2030s, still over $1 trillion in taxes come in, and that's the amount of money that is there to pay benefits, pay out benefits. So even though the trust fund is gone, the taxes coming in, that it's a combination of payroll taxes. It includes taxes collected on tax returns for the taxation of Social Security benefits. So benefits paid out will equal those taxes that come in. So Social Security will always be around. There's no doubt about it.
That's great. Thank you for that definitive answer. And of course, we're all looking into our crystal balls here. Um, and I jokingly bought a crystal ball just for these types of questions I have with clients.
Yeah.
But I think the reality, I would concur with you both that it seems that no one wants to be the bad guy to pull the rug out from millions and millions of Americans that are on benefits and millions more that are anticipating being on benefits and pretend like they'll get away with it. And I think we're seeing a bit of a case study of that in France right now, where they had to push out their retirement age, right?
There's a presidential candidate, I don't won't say which one, that wants to eliminate the taxes on Social Security benefits. And because this person believes social, and I'm not saying yes or no, I'm not playing the political game here, but this candidate believes that folks should not pay income tax on their Social Security benefits. Now, if that happens, then the trust fund will be emptied out a year or two earlier than
Mm,
anticipated.
mm,
I don't think, I know you mentioned, Taylor, that you don't think people no, you think people will have an issue if benefits are lowered. I'm not sure if that's the case. I think Jim said, what was this, Jim? Back in what, the 80s, the Social Security laws were changed to decrease benefits, right?
Well, right. It's
Or
the way
70s.
the way it decreased benefits was it extended the full retirement age. So if
Right.
you took benefits at 62, instead of a 25% reduction, you see a 30% reduction.
fair. Yep.
Um, you can still delay benefits and still receive 100% of your benefit. The calculation hasn't changed. And I think the last time they changed how benefits are calculated was around 1978. Um, but what we may be looking at some changes there. But again, it's not going to be for your lower earner, your middle income earner. It's going to be for the higher earner. Um,
And Jim,
and
did you see any rioting in the streets when when that legislation was passed?
I didn't see any rioting in the streets. I heard a lot of moaning and groaning and gnashing of teeth when I would answer the
Mhm.
telephone. People calling me because I was still working there at the time. Uh, and people were concerned, but uh, they're on the other hand they're relieved a little bit. The Generally the way they avoid that is when they make the changes, they're not usually effective immediately. Now, if they raise what you pay the tax on, that might be immediate. But if they raise the full retirement age to age 70, people 55 or older will probably see the same full retirement age, but it's not a real glaring look at it and say, well, yesterday my benefit was going to be $3,000 a month, and now today, because of the change in law, it's only going to be 2,000.
Right.
It's nothing glaring like that, but it does mean people will have to do some more thinking about when am I going to stop work, when am I going to retire, when am I going to take my benefits.
Right. And I think maybe I had to clarify that's good insight from you both, because when I thought lowering benefits, that was the kind of news I expected is, I'm getting my benefits and I get a statement that says, sorry, not sorry, your benefits dropped by, $1,000 a month or whatever. That would make my blood boil. But what I'm hearing from you
Me
both
too.
is, and the more likely way that benefits will be lowered is not in that fashion, but likely some sort of, hey, full retirement age is now pushed back. Uh, Perhaps
Yeah.
the maximum amount that's taxable of your Social Security benefits is not 85% like today, but 100%. I mean, it can't be more than 100%, right? But those are ways that Social Security benefits are reduced, but it may not be as direct, which sounds like a more likely way Congress would go about it is to be more subtle while still getting their job done. Is that a fair assumption or fair takeaway?
That is fair. And the other thing I would tell people is, first of all, if you have an opinion on this, don't call Social Security. There's nothing they can do about it. But make sure you call your congressman's office. Tell them, get busy, get this thing corrected, because the sooner they make the changes, the less painful it'll be for everybody.
Sure.
The other part is that with the changes, whatever they propose, there'll be proposals out there. So just make sure your Congress person knows how you feel about it, what changes you like, what changes you don't like, and so they can get this taken care of.
Well said. Thank you, Jim. I feel like we've gone down quite a rabbit hole with this topic, but it's such a crucial one. I appreciate you both expounding on it so much, just this integrity of the Social Security program. Is there anything else you want to speak to this subject before highlighting another myth or misconception about Social Security?
Mainly, don't use that as your reasoning to file.
Meaning don't use your concern of the integrity of Social Security to file sooner than you would otherwise.
Right, right. They're going broke, so I'm going to file today to make sure I get some money.
Okay, what else? What else is on both your mind, Jim, Mark? What
Well,
other misconceptions or myths do people have?
a big one is, how are benefits calculated?
Mm,
How many years of earnings do we use? Is it the last 3, 5, or 10 years? The highest 3, 5, or 10? The best 20 quarters? Or could it be something else? Nobody really understands how benefits are calculated. It is based on the highest 35 years of indexed earnings. So earnings will be indexed through age 59 to bring them up to today's dollars. So somebody that might have earned 20,000 bucks in 1985, maybe the indexed amount today is $100,000. Nobody knows that, but that's the way it is.
right.
Earnings beginning with age 60 and then beyond are not indexed for inflation any longer, but they are included in the calculation. So if you're age 70 and you're working, you make 10,000 bucks. Social Security will include those wages in the computation, and your benefits may go up. So benefits are based on the highest 35 years of indexed earnings.
Mm.
Taylor, I don't think many of your clients know that.
Very few, if any.
I believe that's on their benefit statements. It used to be. I don't know if it still is or not. Uh,
Okay.
but they also ask, if I continue to work, will my benefits increase? Or is it just once I take them, it's based off of my earnings up to that point, and earnings in the future don't count? And it's the Social Security will look at it each year.
Mm,
So if you take
interesting.
your benefits, but you continue to work, then Social Security will look to see, okay, Right now we're in late 2024. They're looking to see, did you have earnings in 2023? And if you did, should we use that to increase your benefit? And if it does, they will increase your benefit. It'll be effective with January. They're always running behind, so you usually receive some back pay and an increase in your benefit. But it can increase your benefit. The other part of that, though, that people don't really understand, it doesn't increase it much because you're comparing your current earnings to
Right.
those past year's earnings. And certainly what people earn now is probably higher than they earned in the 80s or the 90s. But those years are indexed for inflation, so you're comparing those in today's dollars against your current earnings. So your increase isn't all that much, but it is a revolving calculation. They look at it every year, and you can see an increase in your benefits.
That's fair.
Yeah,
So
each year, Taylor, I wonder if my benefits are going to go up with additional earnings that Jim and I have from our company. And it's an automatic calculation. So Social Security will look at my new earnings. And if they're high enough, they'll adjust my benefits upwards.
interesting. So if it doesn't move the needle upward, it's not going to hurt you. They're still going to count the 35 highest earning indexed years for your Social Security benefit, whether it was the latest year or not.
Correct.
Right.
Interesting.
35 years is not necessarily the last 35 years. Yeah, it could not be. It could be off and on years. So yeah, it's not always in sequential order.
Sure. And to your point further, Jim, even if my latest year is my highest earning year ever, it's not going to break the bank. It's not going to really move the needle because we're talking about 1 out of 35 years, right? Even if it is much higher than I earned decades ago, index for inflation, right? It's not going to see a material change. It's still nice to know that it moves the needle, but it's not going to be, oh my goodness,
Mhm.
I'm rich sort of thing.
Where it does make probably the most amount of difference, if you don't have 35 years of earnings, they still use 35 years in the calculation. So if
Mm,
you're dropping a year with zero earnings to add in a new year with some earnings, that's where you're going to see the biggest bang for your buck. But even then, it's still not huge.
right. Yeah. 0 to something is better than something to something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks for bringing that up, Mark. That is a big misconception.
One area that we get a lot of questions about would be spousal benefits, and people think, well, I'm going to take my own small retirement benefit at my earliest possible point, age 62, and then I'm going to switch and get half of my spouse's benefit when I reach my full retirement age, and that's not really the way it works. Uh, the problem that people will see is if you take your own benefit at 62, you'll never end up with half of your spouse's full retirement age benefit, even if you don't end up taking that additional spousal boost until after your full retirement age, because it's a combination. There's a rule called deemed filing, and deemed filing says when you file an application for benefits, you're filing for all benefits that are due. So you own benefit first. And then if you're eligible for an additional spousal benefit on top of that, they will pay you that additional benefit. Uh, and if you're full retirement age, when you do that, it does end up equaling half of your spouse's full retirement age benefit amount. But if you took your own at 62 and your part was reduced 30%, uh, that reduction carries over when the spousal boost is added in, and you don't end up with half. So it gets a little confusing for people, but what they need to keep in mind is when you file for benefits, you're going to take your own Social Security benefit first. Any spousal benefit you're due, whether it's a spouse or an ex-spouse, if you're eligible for it when you file your retirement, you'll get paid both at the same time. You can't delay one or the other. And if you become eligible later, then you have to take it as soon as you become eligible. So Social Security has some rules in there that dictates when you're going to take your benefit. And you can't take unless it's a survivor benefit. You can't take a lower benefit now to get a higher benefit later.
Interesting. Yeah, that's good feedback as far as spousal benefits go. Anything else on that topic? Mark, you want to chip on?
No, I think Jim did a good job on that. Definitely. Spousal
That's great.
benefits, it's definitely a huge factor in any married couple's decision on when to claim either the lower earning spouse's benefit or the higher earning spouse's benefit. That's why when we teach our class, we spend about 45 minutes on spousal benefits, which also includes divorced spouses too.
Mm, right. Yeah, divorced spouses, the list goes on. There's a lot of complexity there.
Uh,
Right. And survivor benefits is a little different. That deemed filing doesn't apply to the survivor benefit. And in that case, you could take a lower benefit in the beginning to get a higher benefit later. So it's always important to know, is someone married? Is there an ex-spouse involved? Or do they have a deceased spouse or a deceased ex-spouse in their past? All that factors into their situation.
Most definitely. Well, fantastic. I've really been enjoying this conversation with you both. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully we can do this again sometime soon. For those listeners that are out there that want more from Jim and Mark and more of your education expertise, how can they find you? What's the best way they can learn more about what you're doing?
Sure. They could send me it's easiest way, send me an email. That's mkiner, KINER at mypremierplan.com. That's mkiner at mypremierplan.com, or call my Verizon wireless cell phone that's not yet paid off at 513-218-8505.
Very good. Well, I can put that contact information in the description of this podcast as what YouTube
Okay.
video, just for people to find more easily. Excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, good. Well, thank you both, Jim, Mark.
Thanks,
Sounds
Taylor.
good.
Have us back anytime.
Of course. Take care.